and welcome everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. We really appreciate you all being here and so patient with us while we work through our issues with the dreaded Zoom bombers. And we are so lucky tonight to have with us one of our favorite presenters. We love when she comes. And I think if you haven't seen any of her presentations before, you will also really enjoy hearing from her. Her name is Gwen Franco. She's really an expert in emotional intelligence and has worked for years with the Hyatt hotels. And for a little while, we had her all to ourselves at the beginning of the pandemic, but she's back at work again, and so we have to share her again. But this is the final of a four series. Was it four-part series? Yeah,
yes, we did. It was a 4-part series.
Yeah. Best series we've had at the Rec, and you guys get to be here with us for the final workshop. So I'm going to pass it over to Gwen, unless we had any announcements from Enzo, from Rohan, from Stephen. Okay, if you do have questions, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Stephen.
I just said we're good to go, I think.
Oh, thanks. Okay, cool. So if you guys have any questions, just let us know. Make sure to either turn on your mic or put it in the chat, and take it away, Gwen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you so much for your kind words. I am far from an expert, far from it. But I absolutely enjoy and really like these workshops and this community. So I'm excited for this final part of our series when it comes to emotional intelligence. Today, we're going to talk about effectively managing relationships and kind of understanding what that is when it comes to emotional intelligence, why it's something that's important to you as founders and really just as humans. And then an aspect of that in managing relationships is communication and giving effective feedback. So that's really what we're going to be focused on. And let's go ahead and get started. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, I know that this is a 4-part series, and so a lot of you know who I am already, but we do have some newbies. So just to ensure that everyone knows who I am, I have been with Hyatt for 13 years. I started off as an HR coordinator at the Hyatt Regency Huntington Beach. Had no idea that I was going to find my career, I was going to find the company I wanted to work for, and the industry, which was in hospitality. Today, I am a manager on the global talent management team at the Hyatt corporate office. Our corporate office is in Chicago, and I'm really, really lucky that I get to be remote and I get to be in San Diego. While in my previous role is where I became an intrapreneur, and that is how I was introduced to this community, met wonderful Tanya, and have become a mentor and led workshops is by being an entrepreneur. I created a podcast, I branded myself, craft leadership, and all those things. At the Rec, I lead workshops around leadership and soft skill development, emotional intelligence, confidence building. I mentor, TechMate, and Reinforce directly, and I am really, my focus is on building culture within companies, establishing onboarding, organizational development, helping with training, performance management, recruitment, coaching, everything that's related to kind of helping the company evolve and helping individuals evolve. And that's what I'm passionate about. All right, enough about me. Let's talk about the session today. And what is it that we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about just a quick review about what is emotional intelligence and how it relates to you. What is relationship management, this final part of it that we're going to talk about, and how to give effective feedback, because that's going to help us in managing effective relationships. All right, so what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is really your ability to understand and manage your emotions, right? So think about it. When you think about yourself as a founder, as a co-founder, anything like that, think of yourself in a leadership position, right? And so it's essential for you to have emotional intelligence for success, right? Who's more likely to be successful? A leader, someone who shouts at other people, gets really stressed out, doesn't know how to manage their emotions or communicate with others, or someone who stays in control, can calmly assess situations and act accordingly, right? So we want to work on our emotional intelligence, and it's a skill that we can develop. So when you have a high degree of it, you know what you're feeling, what your emotions mean, and how they can affect people around you. When it comes to entrepreneurs, right, what motivates entrepreneurs, according to the Journal of Small Business and Entrepreneurship, is autonomy, purpose, flexibility, financial success, and legacy. Those are common things that motivate people to go and become entrepreneurs, right? And then when you think about what are the skills needed to be successful, we have all these listed here on the right-hand side, which is self-confidence, trustworthiness, achievement orientation, teamwork, right? Strategic thinking, efficiency, resilience. So yes, business skills are necessary when you look at this, but the other part to be a successful entrepreneur, to have a successful company, are the emotional intelligence skills, because that's how you work with people and that's how you lead people. So that's why emotional intelligence is very important. Just to do a quick review, today we are in this last area, which is relationship management. Let me go through the previous ones that we talked about. Emotional intelligence is made up of 4 core skills that fall under 2 competencies, which is the personal. So self-awareness and self-regulation is our personal competencies. Social awareness and relationship management are our social competence when it comes to relationships with other people. So self-awareness, right? If you're self-aware, you know how you feel, and you understand how your emotions and your actions can affect those around you. And if you remember, we reviewed that through the SCARF model. So the SCARF model was recognizing things that may trigger us to feel a certain way, that can then lead us to behave a certain way. So then we move into self-regulation, right? So you're now aware of how you feel and things that may trigger you. So how do you maintain control of your behavior? How do you control certain impulses and ways that you may behave? First, you have to understand your emotions. So remember, with self-regulation, there's a situation, there's a thought, and emotion, and then a behavior. So we were looking at understanding the thought and behavior so we could behave accordingly. Then we went to social awareness. So social awareness indicates your accuracy in reading and interpreting other people's emotions. So it's understanding what's really going on, right? So through that, we have to really listen so that we understand what people are communicating to us, what their needs are, so we can respond accordingly, and then we build more trust with people. So now we're on the final part, which is relationship management, which really brings all of these together. So what is relationship management? Relationship management is our ability to apply emotional understandings in our dealings with others. So it's using the awareness of yourself and others around you to manage interactions successfully. Through relationship management, this is where you're able to influence others, right? So think about, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, co-founder, there's a lot of influence that has to go on, right? With each other, with partners that with people you're trying to work with customers, things like that, right? This is where you're able to coach, mentor others, which you will do. You do it with each other. You'll do it as you start to build your team. This is where you are able to deal with conflict. Conflict is very natural, and it is not a bad thing. Conflict can stimulate a lot of creativity, and a difference of opinion is not a bad thing. It's how we deal with it. And this is where you can also, through relationship management, drive teamwork and collaboration. So it really helps us develop relationships, build rapport, and it's where emotional intelligence is most visible, because it's through relationships with other people that we see it, that we experience it the most. All right, let's understand, why is it important to you, relationship management? So this skill enables you to effectively lead change or manage personal change. So do we believe that change is important right now? What do you guys think? Just from the last we'll say several months at this point, right? Change is inevitable, change is constant that we know of, and change can be very, very abrupt, right? So the better that we're able to manage have this skill of managing relationships, really it's all of emotional intelligence that comes together to manage relationships, then we'll be able to adapt and thrive and change better. By improving your self-awareness, self-management, and social awareness, you'll be able to develop successfully your relationships. Relationships are really more than just being friendly. They take effort, they take intention for you to get the best from the situation and for you to manage the way people respond. So all relationships take work, time, and know-how. And the know-how is emotional intelligence. All right. I'm going to get to feedback now because this is what we're going to spend the majority of our time with. So what is it and what is the goal? So feedback, think about it. When you are working with someone, whether it's on a project or you're working with someone to complete something, to achieve something, or if it's a coworker, a co-founder, whatever it may be, right? There's always an exchange of feedback. It's constructive suggestions. That is the definition of feedback. So what is the goal of feedback? It is to shape and reinforce preferred behaviors and foster learning that will drive better performance. So for direct reports for employees, it's an opportunity for development and career growth. So let's think about with feedback, right? And how this happens, how it's a dialogue, how it's a conversation. And when you see right here what the goal of feedback is, what is the intention behind feedback? Tell me when you see that. Can you put it in the chat? What do you think the intention is? I'm going to give people a moment to go ahead and write that in the chat. Communicate areas of improvement or success, usually made with someone's best interest in mind. To better someone. Positive redirection, constructive criticism. Yes, these are all great. These are all very, very good. So the intention behind any of this feedback is to help someone be better, right? Because if you're reinforcing positive behavior, you're helping someone know what they're doing well so they continue to do it. Or if someone is not doing something well, you're letting them know so that they can be better. So I want you to remember this intention because that's very important when we continue to move forward in us giving feedback to other people. And feedback is something that is not just given think about it from a leader down or anything. Feedback is given amongst each other. Feedback is given from employees to leaders. It can be given at all levels. And it's not, in our workshop today, we talk about it mainly when it comes to the professional environment, but this is something that you can think about in relationships and personal, in family, with friends, all kinds of things. Just think about feedback in that way. So why don't we give feedback? What stops us? Can you type in the chat what you think? Tell me why we don't get feedback. Hurt feelings, fear of judgment, fear of hurt feelings. Feeling that we are being harsh or rude, social anxiety, afraid of one's reaction, don't want to be seen as mean. Thank you. Unsure of how to deliver it. Yes, these are all very, very honest responses, and that is absolutely true. What stops us is very, very commonly is we don't want to be mean. We don't want to humiliate someone. We don't want to belittle someone. We don't want people to feel like we're trying to fire them. We don't know what to say. We don't know how to say it. We get very caught up in the perceived intention versus our real intention. What was our intention of feedback? Who remembers what that was? You can type it in the chat or you can unmute and say it, but what was our intention with feedback that we just talked about? To be better. Yes, Allison, thank you so much. Our intention with feedback is to help someone be better. But what happens, that's our real intention. And like I said, we get caught up in our perceived intention that we don't want to be mean, humiliate, or someone like that. So we have to stay connected to what our real intention is, to reinforce behavior or correct behavior to help someone learn. So what happens is that we get caught, then what happens with that is we don't want to be mean and stuff, but it's because we don't know how to give feedback. We're not doing it in an effective way. And so that's why people also don't do it. Also, another thing that delays us from giving feedback is because of that, because you don't know how to do it. You don't know what to say or anything. So then you're giving it at the wrong time or not a timely. Think about how you avoid it sometimes, right? When you have to tell somebody, give them some feedback of something that they may have done that may have bothered you, that may have been incorrect, that may have delayed the progress of a project or whatever, right? Think about it, how you delay in it because you're not confident in your ability to lead that conversation. So, but when you're confident in how you do it, you're gonna much more naturally do it. So it's a process of knowing how and what to say to build your confidence so that you're able then to give feedback and it becomes something more natural for you. Here is a framework that's going to help us in giving feedback. So it's an actual model. It's called the SBI model. I call it feedback flow because I think that's a better way to remember it. And so the way that the feedback flow works is you capture the situation, you describe the behavior, and then you describe the impact. And then you have a couple questions that you follow once you have given that feedback. And the reason that I do that is because I do believe that feedback should be a conversation. And so that's why we want to ask questions. People are much more receptive to feedback when you are engage them in a conversation and get their thoughts. You also want to know what's going on from their side, and then that way they feel a part of it. Somebody tell me, how long do you think a feedback conversation should last? When you look at this feedback flow, how long do you think a conversation should last? If you could put it in the chat. Mary put 5 to 10 minutes. Melissa put 8 minutes. Jessica put 15 minutes. Kate put 10. Rohan 10. Enzo 5. Andrew 5. Melanin 10. Until understanding is reached. 3 to 5 minutes. Lara. Okay, all right. 2 to 3 minutes. That's how long a conversation should last. Is that always going to be the case? Is every conversation going to go in that way? Absolutely not. But I can assure you that no one wants to hear about something that they've done wrong for 7 to 10 minutes, right? Especially if we're following a model where we're being very clear about what the behavior was and the impact, which we are then communicating what the expectation is. That conversation should take no more than 2 to 3 minutes. These conversations tend to be dragged out because you're not prepared, because you don't know what to say or how to say it, and you're not prepared to respond or maintain control of the conversation. So that's why they tend to drag out longer. And you get away from truly just talking about the behavior and that impact. And that's when it can get personal. And that's really when it can when it can turn into conflict. We're not specifically going to talk about conflict today. We're just going to focus on the feedback flow. So this feedback flow is really this framework is looking to help you with that, with having an effective conversation in 2 to 3 minutes, communicating what is the expectation, what is the behavior and such, so that people can be better. And when you prepare yourself, then you're going to be more confident going into that conversation, and you're going to be prepared for questions, for some frustrations and such, and you'll be able to better handle that situation. All right, let's look at some examples on how this would work. So first one, you want to capture the situation. So in yesterday's meeting, you want to describe the behavior. You were on your phone. You want to describe the impact. This led you not to hear important information and demonstrate respect to myself, or your coworkers? What do you think? Give me some feedback on this feedback flow. What do you think about this? You can go ahead and put it on the chat, in the chat. Straight to the point, but not harsh or rude. Direct and clear, it's direct. Okay, great. Yes. So am I telling somebody specifically? Am I insulting? Am I making it personal? No, I'm not doing any of that, right? I'm really focused on the behavior and not so much focused on the person. So that is what helps the conversation go faster and be much more effective. All right, next one. Capture the situation. This past week, then you describe the behavior. You haven't responded to share your own input about our marketing plan. Describe the impact. This has led to delays in making decisions to move us forward. What do we think? Jessica, you said with the last one, I think they will start explaining. Yes, it's perfectly, and that's why you want to make it a conversation. And remember how in the previous slides I had put, what are your thoughts? That you put that there. So once you told them, even with this, what are your thoughts? Help me understand. And so they may tell you, oh, I've been so busy, whatever. They may have their reason. Okay, well, this has led to delays, and now we're going to have this delay. We can't move forward, such. Okay, so the person understands how this behavior is impacting the moving forward of the business, of whatever it may be. So that's why it's not making it so personal for the person. All right, I want us to practice. So I'm going to give you a couple examples, and I want you to type into the chat how you would frame this conversation using the feedback flow. All right, here it is. First one. You ask your co-founder to do something and he, she, or they says, I'm too busy, can't you do it? So you're going to give feedback. Write it out. How would you capture the situation? How would you describe the behavior? How would you describe the impact? You can put it in the chat, or if we have a brave soul who would like to unmute and say it, please, you are more than welcome. Jessica, are you talking? I'm so sorry. Can anybody else hear Jessica? Is it just me? No?
I can't hear her either.
I can't hear her.
Oh, Jessica, I'm sorry. I think you're talking.
Now she's muted.
Anybody else? We have 4 of these, so I need brave souls. And I'm not putting you in breakout rooms so that we can do them together. Because that's one of the things that I want you to learn from this, is that all too often we think we have to learn and do these things alone, but we can support each other and we can ask for feedback and we can practice and prepare and role play, because that's going to help us be more confident in these conversations. Oh, we still can't hear you, Jessica. We can just see you talking.
I'll take a whack at it. Or I'll just be
Melissa? Okay, go ahead.
So I guess the situation would be, you need help and you're not getting the help. They're busy with some other things, but they're not really giving you anything to work with. And the impact is like, it's just all on you. So, talk to the hand. Whereas like, behavior, if it was like, maybe I can take a piece, or when is this due? Then that could help alleviate the impact of it. It's very like abrupt end to, like I can't help it, buzz off, and that's not really conducive to a solution.
Okay. I think I heard it in all that you were saying, And now I just want to put it together into the feedback flow, right? So let's capture the situation. Okay, so the situation is I asked for your assistance on a project. Let's just say that's what it is, right? Does that sound like the situation? Yes. Okay. I see Melissa nodding. That's or no, Mary. Sorry. Okay. Let's describe the behavior. And your response was, what was the response? What did you say, Melissa?
I mean, it says, I'm too busy. Can't you do it? And that just feels like, no, you're not giving me anything to work with, really.
Okay.
We have a more solution, or that's not a very solution oriented like response or, suggestive.
Yeah. So the behavior, so the response, right? Let's focus on the nature of the response. Even in Enzo typed, I asked you to do something. I asked you to help me on something that I needed help with. And your response wasn't very collaborative. It was almost, there was a little disrespectful, right? And we don't want to say that they're disrespectful. We want to talk about the nature of the response. And then we want to talk about what the impact was. The impact was that we didn't work towards a solution. This task needs to get done, and one of us needs to do it. It needs to get done for our company regardless. It says co-founder, so it makes me think this person is an equal, and I would need to first assess if their work truly has priority. If not, I would point out that my work has priority and would say that when I ask you to do a task that needs to be, and you do, it impedes the company. Okay, Jessica, I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? Now it says co-founder, so this person's an equal, right? But it says I would point out that my work has priority. So then we're starting to make it personal, right? And that's where we want to take a step back from that, and we want to really focus on just the behavior that's happening in this situation so that it doesn't turn into conflict and people don't take things personal. So like we said, in this situation, if we take elements of what everybody said, I asked you to help me on a project, your response was not supportive, it was not collaborative, it didn't provide any solutions, and because of that, this task isn't getting done. It still somebody needs to make it a priority to continue to move the business forward. Right? Something like that. We're not attacking each other, and we're staying focused on the behaviors. Don't worry, this isn't something that we're naturally good at. This is a skill, and to follow this flow takes work, and that's why it's good to do it together. It's good for you to practice doing it, for you to hear others doing it, and it takes time. But the more often that you sit back and really reflect and look at it from the perspective of this feedback flow, of this framework, the easier it will get. That's why we're practicing. All right, let's do the next one. I said we have 4, so we're on the second one. Okay, you've asked a coworker to do something a specific way more than 3 times, and they keep making the same mistake. So you keep telling them, this is how I want it done. You keep training them on how to do it, and they keep making the same mistake. How do you give them feedback? Capture the situation, describe the behavior, and describe the impact.
I can try this one.
Sure.
So capturing the situation would be you're asking your coworker to do something in a specific way. The behavior is that each of the time they've done it, they've been making a mistake that has made it not the way you've asked them to do it. And the impact would be you could explain the reason why you want it done a certain way because it impedes X, Y, and Z within the task you're trying to create, or the task, what that task leads to for other things.
Oh, that's great, Mary. Why don't you make something up so that we can understand it a little bit more? So get a little bit more specific with details. So you've asked your coworker to do something. What's that something? Whatever, it doesn't matter.
So I work at Target, so I'm gonna just use something from work because it was just something easy. So I've asked my coworker to take the reshop cart, which is all the stuff that people don't buy, and put it back in the right containers so that it's easy to sort later. but they keep putting stuff in the wrong boxes because they're not checking where it goes in the store. And so the impact of that is that someone else later has to take twice as long to do their job that should only take 30 minutes, and it takes an hour and a half because they have more to do than they should have to.
Yeah, and that's not helping our coworkers out, right? And that's so see how that was great. Very well done, Mary. Thank you for having an example like that. And we see how we described exactly the situation, the behavior, and the impact. All right, let's do the next one. Your partner for the project has a negative attitude and complains about everything. So it's not, they're just negative, right? And they complain about everything. How do you capture the situation, describe the behavior, and describe the impact? Allison, you had put, I'm so sorry, I just saw your comment in the chat. You put, I've showed you 3 times. It's frustrating, right? It's frustrating when you're repeatedly showing somebody over and over. But we want to, once again, focus, use the feedback flow. And if it's more than that, then that's when I'll say that other parts have to get involved, like coaching or whatever, write-ups or something like that. But we're not going to think about that because our feedback's going to be effective. Okay. Come on, we're on the 3rd one. Your partner for the project has a negative attitude and complains about everything. Who would like to take a shot on this one?
Can I try the 3rd one or this one?
Yes, you absolutely can.
I'm a little late joining. I just got off of work, but the scenario was that someone has a bad attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So then an approach could it be that, you just have to talk to the person and find out, is there anything you can help, and just explain how the bad attitude is affecting coworkers and the productivity of the, job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's put it all together, and let's. Is your name pronounced Dame? Am I pronouncing it correctly?
Yes. Yes.
Dame. So let's pretend wherever you work, right, in this situation, they are known for having such a great work environment and people respect. It's very important for them to respect each other and for people to feel like they can authentically be themselves and all those things, right? So when we think about how it described with the impact, right, I think one thing that you can always think about is what can you use as your backup? Like what could you connect it to, right? So the situation, so this person has a negative attitude and complains about everything, right? So the situation, you could even be very specific. So, this morning when you came into work, describe the behavior, you didn't smile, you made some negative comments about coworkers, and had a little bit of negativity when it came to being asked, negative response when it came to being asked to do some tasks. When you describe the impact, it's important in our work environment for people to respect each other and for people to enjoy their work, and drive collaboration amongst us. So you're connecting it to what the company stands for, to what's the expectation of the work environment. When you have that established already, you can always connect it to your purpose. You can always connect it to your values, and kind of that's where it's like, hey, this is what we stand for. This is who we are. And this behavior doesn't align with it. So that's always a way to connect the impact to something. So did everybody see how we kind of did that? Yeah, okay, great. Thank you, Jane. And last one. One of your co-founders shows up to a virtual meeting late, frazzled, dressed extremely casual. And this was a meeting where everyone had to dress really nice, right? I had to dress up and doesn't participate much on the call. What's your feedback? Ray, you're unmuted. I think you wanna give this one.
The real me or the other, the nice me? So the real like, what, dude? No.
Well, right, that's the response that you want to give them, right? The response that you want is like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, but you do know if it's your co-founder showing up this way, there's more to it than what you're seeing, right? So what I say is, oh man, you knew this was an important meeting. Man, what's going on in your life? Are you okay? That's the way,
Yeah.
because I'd be more worried about him because this is my co-founder. And so I'd immediately go to, this is not a situation I want to be in, all right? Not a situation you want to be in. There's something really wrong because we're both, in the same boat, the little dinghy, right? Small boat rowing. And so I need to figure out very quickly what's going wrong because we're still, whatever this meeting is about is going to be important. And so I just need to get him, even if he's not dressed correctly, we can always walk over that, but to at least get him focused on what needs to be for the meeting. So, yeah, so I don't know, I came in late, but that's how I would handle it. And I see you describe the impact. I don't think I have to tell the guy what the impact is. He's a co-founder. If he doesn't know by then, he's probably not a co-founder after.
Yeah.
It's a whole different animal, okay?
Yeah. Well, Ray, I really like that you brought all this up because this one's a little bit of a curveball, right? In that, yeah, we have this feedback flow that provides us a framework, but remember that at the end of the day, we're people. We're interacting with humans, and there isn't like a set script. There's something to help you, support you, but you got to assess each situation. And in a situation like this, you don't have to start off the conversation following the feedback flow. You may get to that if this person isn't understanding or responsive, but sometimes when their behavior is not normal, when their behavior is not typically who they are, and it's unexpected in that way, don't start off with the feedback flow. Start off by asking them, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? How can I help you? How can I support you? This was off. This is unlike you, and I want to check in with you. It's okay to do that. I know that I said that these conversations should be 2 to 3 minutes typically, but sometimes they're going to be a little bit longer. Sometimes they're going to go on for 5 minutes. Sometimes they're going to go on for 10 minutes. It just varies. But typically, your practice should be around 2 to 3 minutes. Your practice to be efficient, to make sure that you stay focused in a constructive way, this feedback flow assists. But don't feel like you're locked into using this. And remember that we're humans interacting with each other.
I have a question.
All right. Oh, yes, go ahead.
So I think I'm kind of understanding this exercise and what we are learning from it. I think my question is mostly, what do we do at that point when we are approaching and we're asking that question, hey, what's going on? This is new, this is different, are you okay? But then there are certain personality types who the moment you ask or inquire or question anything that they do, they just default to defensiveness. And so how does that factor into trying to have a 2 to 3 minute conversation and just saying, hey, I'm just checking with you, make sure you're good. Once you have that response, like, why are you, in my grill or whatever, like whatever that response is, if it's going to be defensive, how do you manage to have that 3 minute purposeful, direct conversation with the person?
Yeah. So what you're describing is then when it becomes conflict, right? And so some people are a little bit more defensive from the beginning. And it's because they view feedback negatively. Because if you think of, people don't tend to have a very strong skill when it comes to giving feedback. So whenever they hear any form of feedback, it like activates something in them, right? To where they're defensive. And not very open or receptive to it. So the more continuously you're giving feedback, the more rapport and trust you're building with people. So they're more open and receptive to receiving your feedback. So I think part of it is also to make it a part of who you are, right? And giving feedback. And it's not just constructive feedback that we're giving, we're also giving positive feedback. So they don't see the only feedback that's coming from us is when we're correcting mistakes, but it's also positive feedback, right? If somebody comes in, Mary, I'm going to tell Mary, thanks so much for organizing all the returns in the baskets. everybody, we're going to be done an hour early. You're such a great team player. Thank you, Mary. You know, instead of just telling Mary, you're not sorting everything correctly. And we're just using that as an example. Now, when it comes
Gwen, that is so important.
Yeah.
Guys, what she just, I should, folks, people, right? I say guys, I mean everybody inclusive. I'm old school. But what Gwen said there is so critical. You know, I was in management for 30 years. And I have to tell you that the amount of times people hear constructive or good feedback is so small, it's ridiculous. And you know what? I got my guys to do all kinds of great stuff because I would just say to them, oh man, you're doing such a great job. And you know what? It's self-fulfilling. They did. Because if you just go to them and with problems all the time, that's the shit you're gonna get. Sorry, didn't say that. But it's true. And so what Gwen said there is so important, right? Because at the end of the day, I love what the whole process you went through here, Gwen, because this is real life. And if you want to be a successful entrepreneur and you want to get your group to do good things for you, remember to thank them. Honest to goodness.
And you want to, thank you so much for that example. And what you want is, you want to, even in telling them they're doing a good job, we want to follow the feedback flow model as well, right? And we want to describe the behavior, we want to tell them the impact, because then we're telling it, we tell somebody, hey, great job today. But when we tell them, hey, you were smiling all day, you were friendly. So we're telling them what exact behavior constitutes a good job. And we should be giving more positive feedback than constructive feedback, so people are more open and receptive to it. From it, as much as we want to believe that people are going to be so open and receptive and it's going to work, there's going to be a difference in personality, there's going to be conflict that arises and such, and that's when we want to step into working collaboratively to manage conflict. I wanted to talk about feedback with conflict. I wanted to move from feedback into conflict today, but this topic I knew was going to take about 15 minutes. So when I teach a workshop next semester, it will be all about managing conflict and building off of this. But ultimately, when you are working on your emotional intelligence, understanding your emotions, regulating the way that you express your emotions, reading and understanding other people, and then that's going to help you manage relationships, that should help in not having as much conflict because you're working on those skills already. And when you don't give effective feedback, when you say it incorrectly, when you don't know how to say it, when you say it at the wrong time, when you make it personal, that leads to conflict. So when we are if we already start giving feedback efficiently from the beginning, that can help us not get to the conflict place. It still could happen, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it won't. And that's the next part that I will dive into a little bit more about how to manage conflict when those conversations do go there. And remember, conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. Difference of opinion isn't. It's just about how you can engage in a collaborative conversation so that both people feel a sense of they feel respected and they feel like they work towards something together from the conversation. Dame, I hope that answers your question. It was a very long answer though.
No, I do understand about building up a rapport and making sure that you're also giving positive feedback as often as it happens, as often as possible, so that when you do have something constructive to say, it's well received along with all the other good things you've already said.
Yeah. So I want us to see as managing conflict as not just something that happens in a conversation, but there's a lot of buildup in our behaviors that lead up to conflict happening with people and how we manage it. It's not just about what you do in that moment. So I want us to be aware of everything that leads up to it. And in the next workshop, I'll talk more about when we're in conflict and how to deal with that.
And I don't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was able to get the survey link in the chat. Has it I can't see it myself. I don't know why, but
I'll send it
I
again.
don't think
okay.
Yeah, I don't know if he's put it in there. So let me just recap. So just remember the importance of relationship management and how really when you're working on all elements of emotional intelligence, you're working on your ability to be in relationships because it's bringing everything together, right? And it's what will help us in managing change, leading change, and you are in a constant world of change as an entrepreneur, starting a company and such, right? You have to shift and adapt accordingly very quickly. And even with all of our external influencers and things that impact you, that's happening, right? Remember that managing relationships is more than just being friendly. Takes a lot of work in relationships. All relationships take a lot of work, effort, and intention. And we need to know how to communicate with people. So always remember what your intention is behind feedback. Our intention is what? To help people be better, right? Okay. So I leave you with, I did a new quote today. I've used the same quote for all of my series, but today I did a new quote because I think we completed our 4-part series when it comes to emotional intelligence. And at the root of it all, as Aristotle says, is knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. So when we start with our self-awareness, we can then build to the other parts and become wiser and better people. I want to thank you so much for attending this series. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the very heartfelt card that you all sent me when I hurt my back. Please know the importance of proper lifting because that is what happened. I lifted something incorrectly and hurt my back. And I'm so sorry I had to reschedule this workshop, but I am so happy to be here today and to be a part of the REC community. And it was just the kindest card to receive. And I thank you all so much.
Thank you for saying that, Gwen. That really, it touched me too. I was moved by everybody doing that. And I'm glad that you're better and glad that you're back. And and I know that a lot of you've got to get to class and things. So I will say thank you all for being here. I will see you again soon. Have a wonderful evening and take care of yourselves. Be healthy, be safe, everyone. Be kind, right?
Take care of yourselves, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.